Hello, everyone. I don't have an intro. I've just been saying this every time I have like an interview or like something like this. I'm like, I don't have an intro. I haven't had time to like get one, but here we are right on. Today's guest is the developer of the game called Little Nemo. Oh, wait. And then I heard myself because we went live on Blaze. But hello everyone. Anyways, we have the dev of a game called Little Nemo. I played this game during Steam Next Fest, and I had so much fun playing it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Dave. I hate platformers. I'm not a platform person. Like, I don't like them. I very rarely
Interesting.
play them. But Little Nemo had me like immediately. I was like drawn to the art style. It was so fun. And I don't know if you know this game, but it's called Jazz Jackrabbit. And whenever I was little, I used to play Jazz Jackrabbit 2 on a very old computer. And for some reason, it reminded me of Jazz Jackrabbit. And that is like, I don't know, there was so much nostalgia for me somehow. I don't know. But it was such a fun game. And I don't know, I enjoyed myself so much playing it. And I had to, and that's why I reached out to you. And I really hope that you would agree to talk to me so we could talk about your awesome, fun game and you being a game dev.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for yapping for so long, but thank you for coming. And can you please introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dave Mauro, founder of Diesoft. So I am the primary developer behind Little Nemo and the Guardians of Slumberland. There are a few other people that have helped with the game, but it's like mostly me. I do art, animation, engineering, design, kind of everything. But we've got Sid helps out with the narrative direction. Um, we've got my friend who goes by Lil Bud, who helps out with level design, and Peter Berkman from On Monokuchi did the soundtrack, which everyone is loving that. Jonathan Bacon did the sound effects. So I do have some help, but otherwise, like day to day, it's kind of it's like I think I'm about as close as you can get to it as a solo developer, but like there are definitely other people working on it. And I've been working on this for years. The game just came out 2 weeks ago. And I'm excited. We just hit very positive on Steam. We have 94% positive and just hit the threshold to be very positive. So the next goal is overwhelmingly positive, which, it's just a matter of time, I guess, before we can manage that. So, yeah.
I think that you guys are actually going to reach overwhelmingly positive because that game is just so fun. Do you know what Jazz Jackrabbit is?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never actually played that one myself. But it is really interesting to hear you mention that it's giving you like nostalgia for a game I never played. So there's no Jazz Jackrabbit in Little Nemo, but it's like it's not that surprising to hear you say that because I don't knowing nothing about it. I think there's stuff that I'm doing in Little Nemo to try to make it feel very retro that I feel like maybe you're
Mm,
kind of connecting with, like a little bit of this game feel. Some of it is like simple things like the camera in Little Nemo
mm-hmm.
typically is either going horizontally or vertically, like locked. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you'll go into bigger rooms where it can move around. So it's very inspired by how like Super Metroid works essentially. But I think a lot of retro games did that, especially I don't know what era that is, but in like the 8 and 16-bit eras, a lot that was like pretty standard for cameras to work like that, which is much different from like how modern Metrovania cameras were.
So, Jazz Jackrabbit came out in 1998.
Hmm.
So, and
Okay,
it
so that was a little
was, and
later.
I think that you are right that it's a little bit the camera angle. And I think it has to do with how the game plays because of how, how like it's framed. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's how it's framed and how the character moves. And then I think it's because what gives me nostalgia is like, as I said, like a little bit of how the gameplay is, but also in Jazz Jackrabbit, every basically there's like different worlds, I guess, and then they all look different, and so there's a lot
Okay.
of like, just very like from level to level as you go. the art is very different, and I feel like that's what you guys also did. There's a lot
Yeah.
of different, like, like the levels are very different, the art like varies a lot. You go to almost like these different like worlds, and like I don't know, they all have like a different vibe, and I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. And I think it's also like, as I said, the gameplay. I think the gameplay is part of it, and like as you said, if you've been inspired by like older games like that, I feel like that's probably what it is. And I don't know, it's just interesting that you've never, like you said, it's just an interesting thing that you've never played Jazz Jackrabbit. But I used to play it all. It was basically the only game I had, because I had like my computer had what, 4 gigs of RAM, like no, 4 gigs of just total memory, like
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know. So it was like,
Yeah.
it was just, it was one of those old computers, and it couldn't do a lot, and I had space for like this one game. And I mean, I don't remember having any other game, so that's just the only thing I played.
Yeah. I think the for me that sort of like that desire to make these domains that are very archetypical and like have a strong visual identity comes from like Mario, for instance.
Mhm.
Like Mario
Mhm.
games tend to do that.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that was also just like a kind of a more common thing back in that era
Mhm.
as well. Like
Mhm.
retro games just tend to do that more kind of like, hey, this world, this level can be wildly different from the last one. There doesn't need to be continuity. And I think something that you maybe see a little bit more in modern games is this desire to make a homogenous world. And it's like, oh, it needs to make sense. And so it needs to,
Mhm.
and that maybe kind of reduces some of that like
Yeah.
wild tonal shift from one domain to the next, or
Mm.
at one level to the next, I guess it would be.
And I feel like that does make sense, and I feel like it's so much more fun to have more variety, and like
Mhm.
it's kind of exciting. Okay, so another game that I'm playing, I've been streaming. I streamed it like a day ago. Is Alice Madness Returns.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know if you're familiar
I
with
haven't
that. That's
I am familiar, but I haven't played it.
Okay, it's one of my all-time favorite games, and it came out like way. I think somebody told me. I don't know.
The early
I
aughts or
don't
something,
remember.
right?
Like 2011 is when Alice
Oh,
Madness
okay.
Return
Well,
came out, and I know there's like a first game that came out in the 2000s. I don't think I've played that
okay.
one. I've only played the second one. But that game also has a very different art from one phase of the game to the next phase. It's kind of like
Yeah.
completely different worlds that you're going through, and also the main character changes outfit, and the outfit matches the world that she's currently in. And it's so much fun because it's like a surprise, and it's like, you
Yeah.
finish this level and then you go to the next one, and you're like, oh, it's like a whole new world to explore that looks different, has like different art, a different vibe. And so I love it when games do that. It's just so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's is that a dream world that it takes place in, or is it like a kind of like Mindscape kind of thing,
It's
or
like
is
a
it not?
dream. I mean, I think, Alice basically, she's kind of crazy. So that's the story, that she's kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
mental. And so she goes into Wonderland, but like Wonderland is in her head, I think. And
Yeah.
she is just experiencing all these different worlds in her
It,
head, because she's just kind
it's
of.
kind of like Slumberland that it like
Yeah.
gives you it's this narrative device that lets you gives you an excuse to just make whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? And just be as
And I
wild and
love it.
fantastical as you want to be. Yeah.
It's really cool. And so I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to, like, how did you guys come up with the idea of Little Nemo? Because when I'm a mom, I have a little baby, and she's like 1.5 years old right now. And so when I started the game, I was like, oh my god, look at this cute baby.
Yeah, I mean, well, are you familiar with like the history of Little Nemo at all? The
uh no, I don't think so.
Okay, so it was originally a comic strip, first published in 1905, Little Nemo in Slumberland. It was a comic strip by
Oh.
Winsor McCay, so it's now in public domain. But throughout the year, like throughout the 20th century, it was like frequently adapted into it was a stage play. It had Winsor McCay himself did a little animated short movie for it. But kind of notably, in I think it was 1989, there was an animated film, Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland, and that was very popular.
Oh
And
wow.
Capcom even made two video games based on it. One of them for the NES, Little Nemo, the Dream Master, and that was my introduction to Little
Mhm.
Nemo. When I was young, I played that, and it always kind of stuck with me. And so when I decided that I wanted to make video games, I knew I kind of wanted to do something like a little more like less something less violent. I like
Mm.
action games, and I figured like I'm not gonna, do I didn't want to do like a puzzle game or like a
Mhm.
cozy game so much, but I wanted something that was like kind of like uh more wholesome, I guess.
Mhm.
And just seemed like a perfect fit. It's like, oh, I'm really into Little Nemo. Little Nemo's public domain. Like, why don't I just make a Little Nemo game?
Right? That's
Yeah.
I and you surprised me so much because I've never, and maybe it's because, what is it? Is it an American? Like, is it an American thing? Yeah, it says U.S.
It's
early 20th century comic
Yeah, it
strip.
is. Winsor McCay was an American comic artist, very inspired by like French art, though.
Mm-hmm.
And the animation, the film was very inspired by Japanese animation, and
Mm-hmm.
in fact was originally going. There was one going to be made by Studio Ghibli, I believe, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
some of the people involved with it. I forget the details exactly. So it's not just Americans; like it's popular all
Mm-hmm.
over the world. Like lots of people that see my game will tell me from all over the world, like, oh, I loved the Dream Master when I was a
Oh.
kid, or I loved the movie when I was a kid, that sort of stuff.
Okay, because I had no clue. I don't know. I didn't know what Little Nemo was. I didn't know it was a comic strip. Like, I was like,
That's funny.
how am I so behind on this?
I think you're the first person that I've talked to that has really connected with a game that didn't have some like passing familiarity with Little Nemo. So it's like it's nice to know that it like because that's kind of what I want to do, right? Is be able to bring new people into Little Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some people will see it and be like, oh, it doesn't look like the movie because it's its own adaptation of the source
Mm-hmm.
material, so it's a bit different. And part of what I want to do is bring new people into the world of Slumberland and Little Nemo, and especially like kids, because like I got into this as a kid, and it's like I want to make something that I would enjoy as an adult and that adults can enjoy, but also I want something that like kids can play and then grow up to have
Absolutely.
fond memories of.
Yeah, and like as you were speaking, I was thinking, well, like Little Nemo is something that I want my daughter to be into. Like I want,
Yeah.
like now that I'm gonna look into it now because looks so interesting, and it's like it's something that I want to introduce her to. And then it's like I used to play Jazz Jackrabbit. Maybe she's gonna play Little Nemo, and she's gonna have so much fun one day. It's such a fun game, and it's like I feel like I had to look up the movie, and I feel like I have seen maybe the movie, but I'm not sure. I have to tell my husband that we have to watch it again to
Yeah.
like refresh my memory. But
Yeah, I think you can watch it for free on YouTube, and it's not a particularly good movie, but it's
mhm,
beautiful, and it's like
mhm.
like definitely well worth a watch.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna have to check it out, but I also want to check out the original like comic book strips because
Yeah.
it is like I don't know, it's just so interesting, and it's like how did I miss this? I don't know. It's like I thought it was I actually was like so convinced until now that you were going to tell me that you probably like just got inspired by your kid or something like that.
Just dreamt up this character,
Just
yeah.
like it's just like it's just like a little game with like your little baby in it, and I was like, it's so cute. I think my favorite thing is like whenever he goes in the little the little dressers and he like kicks his little feet. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, those are the most fun to do. Those like little kind of superfluous animations,
Hmm.
sort of one that I'm always really happy with people's reaction is when you grab the monkey bars
Yeah,
and Nemo is
just kicks
kicking,
his little
kicking,
feet.
kicking, and yeah, people always love that. So I think I tried to I kind of like work in a lot of those like
I mean, it's
just
such
silly
a
little animations.
Yeah, it's such a kid thing because it's like every time I like pick up my daughter or my husband picks her up and we're trying to like move her somewhere, the first thing that she does is like just kick her little feet and she's just like
Yeah.
kicking until you just like set her down. It's just a funny thing, and I don't know, I saw it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is just so adorable." And I don't know. It's just a game that brings you so much joy when you play it, and I don't know. I just it was satisfying to play. It really was, and from somebody who doesn't usually like platformers, it's like
Yeah,
I just couldn't
that's
believe
really
it.
interesting to hear. So have you just not played a lot of platformers, or do they tend to turn you away? Do you?
They're just so difficult for me. I'm just so bad
Okay,
at them.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. I think that's. I think I'm trying to do a lot to help onboard
mm-hmm,
people that are new. Like for people that are trying out the first like section of the game,
mm-hmm,
like the demo area before you kind of get your yo-yo and you can kind of
mm-hmm,
start exploring the world,
mm-hmm,
is quite a bit easier than the rest of
mm-hmm,
the game, simply because some people just don't haven't played platformers, and I want them to be willing to try this out, especially
mm-hmm.
like younger people. Um, and so I'm doing a lot of work there to help do that onboarding. And there are some things, like for instance, that I hope maybe help brought you on board,
Mm-hmm.
not despite normally not liking platformers. Things like just the character being slightly slower, which
Mm-hmm.
some people kind of will say like, oh, it'd be nice if Nemo was a little faster. But that's something that I am doing to kind of
Hmm.
help people get like be able to learn a lay of the land. Is just like slow it down, keep
Mm-hmm.
it. You start with a simple kit. You can only jump and pick things up at the
Mm-hmm.
start, right? And so it's like
Mm-hmm.
you have to collect those toys before I start introducing more like the blocking mechanic, the attacking mechanic, the
Mm-hmm.
pogo, etc.
I don't know. I think it was like so. I have played some platformers. And I don't know if you would call like I don't know. Are you familiar with Trine?
Yeah,
There's a,
yeah.
okay. So
I played some of that a long time ago.
is that a platformer? That is a platformer, right? Or is it
Yeah,
not?
as I
Is it
recall,
kind
it's
of
been
like
that game's
it's
old,
like
right? I feel like I played
yeah,
it
it's like
like
really old.
20 years ago or something.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really really old game, but it's a co-op game. So me and my husband play it just because we like to play co-op games together. So we find it doesn't matter how old it
Okay.
is, we're gonna play it if we can play it together. And we had fun playing that, and I think that was the most like fun apart from Little Nemo that I've had with like a platformer because they usually just are. I think that a lot of them, a lot of people make them like pixel. There's a lot of like pixel platformers, and a lot of
Right.
like I feel like a lot of the goal of like some platformers is kind of to make you rage, or like they're like really difficult. And so I don't know. I usually am not so into platformers, and I think it has to do with art. Um, I am very like visual, and so it's like if a game does not look good, I will not play it, which is
Yeah,
like
no,
really bad.
I can be a little bit snobby like that too, where
Yeah, and
I'll be
so
like, this game's fun, but I'm not loving the art, so maybe I'm done for now. But yeah.
yeah, and so that's like a real thing for me. Is like I struggle with games that I don't they're not appealing to me to look at.
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't matter how good it is or how much people are going to rave about it. It's like if I don't like how it looks, I am not going to play it.
Yeah.
Probably the only exception to that, and I also have been really snobby about like old games. I have been refusing to play any kind of old games because I thought I couldn't. But I started streaming recently, and, like just streaming but playing games. And so I started with like the OG Resident Evil games, and I figured out that they are difficult, and it took me a while to get used to the controls.
Yeah.
But they're actually really fun, and so like apart from those original Resident Evil games, I have been refusing to play old games and ugly games.
Well, I
So,
hope hopefully like playing Nemo will get you well versed enough in
mhm,
platformers to maybe revisit some old retro platformers, because I
right?
think a lot of the those platforming skills I think would translate into retro games like Mario Bros and
Oh
things like that.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, and and it's like I think yeah, and I will play it more. And I've been like, I don't know, it was just so much fun. I just have been really into Resident Evil recently, but I'm going
Yeah.
to have to go back and because I need to play some more like fun games too. And definitely I think it's a game that will really help me, as you said, like level up my platforming skills, because I've learned that like when you play something that usually is like really hard for you, just like Resident Evil was, like you gain like skills, and then I don't know, it's like then when you play something else it doesn't feel so difficult, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like playing those really hard original Resident Evil games made me a better gamer, and I was so proud of
Yeah, for
myself.
sure. For sure, it'll do
um
that. I think, and kind of going back to your point about like visuals and the
mhm,
visuals of games, um, I am, like I said, like I'm kind of similarly in that boat where like I really want polished visuals in a game,
mhm,
and that could be pixel art or hand drawn or whatever, but just something really polished. And so when working on Little Nemo, I knew, okay, I really want a visual presentation that like I would be excited about in the
mhm,
game. And so like kind of a lot of the first area, like in the Dreamswept Plains, that stuff has been more or less done. That demo,
mhm,
the Dreamswept Plains area, it's evolved a lot, but like
mhm.
most of the art for that was like ready um at the time of the Kickstarter, which was 2022,
Oh
summer of
wow.
2022. So it's been like that stuff was like kind of locked in for years, and it just, but it's like the difficult part then was making a whole game at that level of kind of
Mhm.
like detail and polish that I was aiming for. Um, but yeah, I'm glad I did, because it like I'm glad I was able to kind of like keep that up throughout the game.
Mhm.
But it definitely it took a long time. Like I definitely took a bit longer than I was expecting even.
The art is beautiful. I was going to. Did you say that you're the one who does the art? You're the artist for the game as well, or?
Yeah, I did hire Joao Frutuoso
Mhm.
to who helped out a bit. He did some contract work doing art.
Mhm.
So he did some of the really great static art. So like
Mhm.
like the dialogue portraits
Mhm.
Joao did, a lot of the set pieces.
Mhm.
So like the little um like behind Jules, the narwhal, that
Mhm.
like nice little fishbowl studio, things like that behind that are
Mhm.
like behind the Guardians.
Yeah.
And he also did the background elements for Nightlight City, which is like probably my favorite background in the game. So he definitely, and he also did a lot of like concepting art
Mhm.
for me as well, for like enemies and like just different things. That so he would kind of do some sketches, then I would work from them, because
No.
he's not an animator, not that I am either, but like I kind of learned animation from working on this project, but he
Wow.
didn't have the that was kind of out of his comfort zone. So I did all the animation. So a lot of
Cool.
times he would kind of sketch an idea for something, and then I would draw from it. But
Wow.
so yeah, he contributed a lot, but yeah, otherwise it was me doing the art.
That's really crazy, because I don't think I would ever. The art looks very, you did a good job of doing, I don't know, to say like the art direction, I guess, because the art looks like it was made by, I don't know, by the same person. I don't know, you guys did a
Mm.
very good job of like, it doesn't look like, you wouldn't tell that like two different people made the art. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
I
know,
think
it just looks so good, and it looks like homogenous. I don't know, it just.
yeah, I think a lot of that is on Joao, actually, that he
Mhm.
was able to like match my style.
Mhm.
So like when I saw his ideas for the dialogue ports, it's like, oh, this
Mhm.
is perfect. This is what I wanted in my head, but
Mhm.
like I wasn't good enough to like make this happen.
Yeah. That's really
And
crazy.
so yeah, he just did a really good job. There's like subtle differences, like obviously like I do a lot to maintain consistency in the
Mhm.
art. So oftentimes artists will draw different scales and then like resize things to make sure that they work. But usually what I'm doing is I'm drawing things. I know what scale they need to be, and I draw them
Mhm.
specifically like that, and don't scale them, so that I
Mhm.
can maintain consistent like line widths, and like make sure the brush strokes kind of maintain a consistency throughout the art. And I think that helps with a lot of that.
Hmm.
Although you'll notice, like sometimes the way that the backgrounds are presented are different. Like sometimes, like like the Dreamswept Plains, you can see
Mhm.
behind us is very watercolory, kind of like washy. And
Mm-hmm.
then other ones will kind of have like more linear line art. Some will have like a bit of a depth of field blur, and some won't. But overall, I think Schwab did a good job of kind of like helping whenever he needed to like work into that process. He did a great job.
And yeah, the art is just beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, you said that this started as like you had a Kickstarter. So
Hmm.
I have a question. So when you started the Kickstarter, how much of the game was ready, or did you just have a concept and like art, and then after you started the Kickstarter, then you started really working on the game? Is that okay
Yeah.
to ask?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had been working on the game for about 3 years when the Kickstarter
Oh
launched.
wow.
So I was, maybe roughly halfway done. I thought I
Mhm.
was a lot closer to being done. Like I said, like it just executing on all the art
Mhm.
took a lot longer. But as, by the time I got to the Kickstarter, I had a vertical slice of the game.
Mhm.
I knew there were some systems that were kind of like faked, essentially. Like it didn't have the full seamless open world
Mhm.
stuff in it, but I kind of like had all of the art working, and the everything was functional. I had all my physics systems and everything. Um, but there weren't there wasn't like not like all of the whole world
Mhm.
wasn't there. It was just kind of like this chunk of the game was done.
Mhm.
um and I think I had started on some of the others, obviously, but because like you can see in the Kickstarter, I'm showing some things that weren't necessarily in the
Mhm.
demo. But yeah, at that point I was thinking, oh, I just need to fly, like I've got all the major systems done, the like infrastructure of the game is built.
Mhm.
I've got something playable, this like demo prototype, and now I just need to like make this content for these different domains, finish the drawing and animation, and the bosses and things like that. And between just executing on that and also just a lot of the feature creep and scope, I ended up spending more time working on the game um after. Well, I guess it's about the same time.
Mhm.
I guess really it was more like 3.5 years I had been working on the game at that point, and then another 3.5 years after the Kickstarter.
Wow.
Um so yeah, I guess it was right about at the midway point, although I didn't realize at the time. I thought I was at like the 75% point or something, but I had a
Wow,
little,
that
little bit
that
further to
yeah,
go.
this game has taken you a long time to finish. A lot of like dedication, and so I wanted to ask you, before you started working on Little Nemo, like how did you have you guys made any other games, or like how did you start into like game development?
Yeah, so I have never. This is my first game.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I've worked on like um game jams here and there and stuff,
Mhm.
but my experience is in app development. So I
Mhm.
was coming from the world of app development,
Mhm.
and so I had a familiarity with building and shipping, software.
Mhm.
Um, and so I figured that would give me kind of a leg up, and also just, very an avid game, player of games. But ultimately, app development and video game development are so very different.
Mhm.
But I wasn't able to appreciate just how different they were until actually doing this. Um, but yeah, so I didn't have experience with that. But some of the team did, like Pete Berkman, who did the
Mhm.
soundtrack.
Mhm.
He with Anamanaguchi did the soundtrack for the Scott Pilgrim game. So
Oh
he's
wow.
had some experience with that, and that was kind of helpful actually, because he could kind of had an idea of how he wanted to work on stuff, and so that was helpful. But yeah, I think most of us are all like, I think just about everyone else working on the game, we're all, new to this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's great. That's crazy. And that's like, so a lot of, and it's incredible because you have been, this is your first game, and
Mm.
you have been able to, like, dedicate so many years to it. And, it's incredible because, I think a lot of game people who try to start, making games, it's hard for them because they don't realize how difficult it can be, and then they also get overwhelmed by like by something that like you've not done before. There's so much to it, and
Yeah.
then when you start building it, you I think that there's a lot of people who get overwhelmed easily, and then also the fact that you have been working on one thing for so long, and it's like you do have other people who like you've employed, or like contractors or whatever, people who help you, but you're basically the person who's leading the project. So being able to keep at it on your own for like this long is I think it is admirable, because I think that it is not easy, and I think that I don't know. I think people do get discouraged by like
Yeah.
sometimes how long it can be, how complicated it can be, like how much work needs to go into it, and so like I don't know. I'm just kind of like amazed, because usually the advice to people who are just starting into making games is to try to build something more simple,
Yeah.
right? So you can like like you can learn, and then like make a little small game, ship it out, and then you can see how it does, and then like maybe your next one could be a little bit more complicated, but you kind of took on this project that you built for like so long, and I just can't believe it.
Yeah, I thought I was my plan was to make a small game, and I thought I think I was like a little bit. It's a little bit of like overconfidence, but I thought I would be able to execute on this a lot more quickly, and it just
Mhm.
also grew a lot. Like the original idea for Nemo was like, there's no story, there's
Mhm.
no bosses, like it's really simple. Um it grew a lot, but also, like I said, like I targeted a pretty high visual fidelity, which impacted the time it took a lot. I definitely would recommend to anyone else, like, yeah, for sure, try to make something smaller. Like even for me, if I make another game, my
Mhm.
my plan is to research other solo developers and
Mhm.
projects that solo developers have worked on, that they executed on in like a couple of years, and
Mhm.
get us to help me get a better sense of what scope I should be aiming for. Cause like this is definitely, too I couldn't do this again, right?
Mhm.
Cause it's just I spent too long on this. And so it's like, okay, I would need to either like grow a team, like have a
Mhm.
team,
Yeah.
or I would need to drastically shrink the scope.
Mhm.
Um so I think it was a little bit of, being able to do this it's kind of a few factors. It's like I'm just really I happen to be really good at like just keeping to myself, heads
Mhm.
down, doing work, chipping away at a project. Like that's just really fun for me.
Mhm.
But even me after 7 years of work, I was, to the point where it's just like I really need to ship this. Like I can't just be working on this forever,
Mhm.
especially because like I'm doing this full time. Like
Mhm.
I'm trying to turn this into a career.
Mhm.
Um, and so I need to ship something.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so whatever comes next, I need to be able to execute more quickly, and
Mhm.
which I think is doable. A lot of this process was learning, right?
Mhm.
But also it is just like a project of this size is just at the end of the day probably going to take about this long,
Yeah.
and that's not even that long. That's like, I was estimating on Discord. I was talking to people. I was like, I put in about 7 years of work on this, and then if you count everybody else's contributions, that's, I don't know, maybe like 1 to 2 more years of work.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's like making a game in 9 hours of work is probably on the low end, honestly. Like when you look at other games that ship with like small teams, they're probably at that level or more, that are
Mhm.
kind of targeting a game of this scope. Um, but yeah, it's a lot to take on, and I don't recommend for anyone to like do this. You have to be a weirdo, and like I also am lucky in that like I was coming from app development where I was able to make
Mhm.
enough money that I had savings, because it's like,
Mhm.
if you want to do this, you need savings, because you don't know how long is this going to take you. What are you going to do when you run
Mhm.
out of money? Like,
Right.
um, so it's, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know what's really funny? So the person that I interviewed before you, so the last person that I talked to, was a solo game dev, and he ships games in like weeks. Like he makes and what he calls and okay, and his games perform really well. He makes basically he calls them friend slop games.
Okay, yeah,
Which
yeah.
they're like short games and like they're really like I think one of his games is kind of like a rage game where it's like kind of like really difficult to play, but it's really fun and it's really fun co-op and it's also fun for streamers
Yeah.
and it's like a short game. You know, he didn't work on it for like months. You know, he worked on it for like a short period of time and it performed really well and it allowed him to be able to make enough money so that he can kind of continue making like games. And he is working on some on like in the background, like he's working on like a bigger project, but then in the meantime he's making these like short like games that like gain traction with like people because like they're friend games, they're like funny, they like he ships them really quickly, you know,
Yeah.
and they're like they look very simple or whatever, but they it like it works for him. And so it's just very interesting to talk to somebody who does that and then to you who spent like so much and like the game is like very detailed, like a lot of like the art is really good, you know, you have like music and you know everything. It's just like such a you put like a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
And so it's like in both of you are just kind of like, you know, both of you want to make a career out of it, but it's like a completely different, like two opposite ways of like
Yeah.
approaching it. And so
We're
it's just so
probably very
interesting to
different
me.
people too, I would imagine. Like, right? Like I said, like I
Yeah.
enjoy just sitting down and chipping away at a project. Um, and like those types of games aren't. I play that sort of stuff like Friend Slop
Uh-huh.
sometimes, but it's like it's not like it's like not this kind of game I would be wanting to make. And so
Yeah.
I think for me, whatever comes next, it's going to have to be okay. What is like the thing that I will want to make, but
Yeah.
also what is the right
Yeah.
scope. So it's like
Yeah.
finding. It's going to be about finding that balance.
Finding a balance. Yeah. I don't know. It was just so interesting. It was such a funny thing and also like a very interesting thing to me. And then I don't know, and it's also like a big part of why I started talking to indie game devs was because of my husband. Because like, well, um, I love gaming, I love games, and then my husband also has been getting really interested into like he wants to try to make his own game as well, and so like I watch him trying to start like building his games, and we talk about his ideas, and then it's just so interesting. I don't know, it's just it's like such a full to me, making a game is basically the kind of almost like an ultimate form of art because it's not just an
Yeah.
art like that you can look at. It's an art that you completely kind of experience like fully. It's like you can look at it, you can listen to it, you are involved when it actively. It's like what better, I don't know, it's like what can be a more involved or like a more better art form than a whole game. I don't know, that's how I see it and that might be something weird to some people, but if you really think about it, it's like it's a specific way to experience like art and it's almost like I don't know and you kind of like get to live it. I don't know and it's like you get to and like people who make games they have an idea and like they build this world, they have a vibe that they want you to feel, they have like emotions that they want you to feel and they and good games and good I feel good game devs can really well translate those things and it's like just kind of like and it's almost like you know you never played Jazz Jackrabbit but it I got to have this nostalgia because you were kind of like building the game in a way that was like nostalgic generally for like
Yeah.
games made back then. I don't know, it's just it's like there was a certain thing that you know I went into the game and like I experienced and it was like you know and that's kind of like what you wanted people to feel and it was like really well translated and that might be crazy talk but that's how I feel.
No, no, absolutely. I mean, like my spouse picks on me a lot about uh I think I just like talk about or refer to the idea of
Mhm.
nostalgia a little
Mhm.
too much. And I think that's like definitely, a lot of what like that idea just to thinking about nostalgia is like baked
Mhm.
into Little Nemo. So it's like it's
Mhm.
great to hear when that like comes through. And yeah, it's like making games, like, absolutely, it's like it's this very unique form of art that is like all encompassing of your senses and in this kind of wild way,
Mhm.
that I think in some ways, surpasses what other mediums are capable of, right? But that also means I think that also helps make it much more difficult. It's like a combination of
Mhm.
there's a lot there's a lot of elements to it, combined with the fact that it's such a new medium compared
Mhm.
with others, that the tools are all new, right? So like we don't have the tools that we need to make this easier. I mean, we're
Mhm.
starting to get them, right? Like I built this with Unity, which you know wasn't like, we didn't have these out of the box game engines
Mhm.
available to us 20 years ago, where you couldn't just like easily, anyone can build a game. It was like, oh,
Mhm.
I need to build my own game engine, right? Just to
Mhm.
just get your foot in the door. And so but even still, even with these engines, they still, for instance, like I could complain about Unity's UI support versus
Mhm.
something like, if when you're building apps, UI is like very much a solved, like you get a lot of stuff out of the box for free. And because games are doing so many different things, there's not like this one size fits all solution for how you want to present your UI. So it's like these games can be so different that making tooling that can handle all of these different use cases is,
Mhm.
I can only imagine, a very difficult thing to do. So these generalized game engines, just kind of like, they still require a lot from us, the developers, to make
Mhm.
them work, even though obviously it's like a lot easier than it was like 20 years ago. So yeah, it's a really exciting and cool art form, but it definitely like asks a lot of the developers.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And like what you said, it's kind of like there's been a complaint from gamers that like games built in Unreal Engine, they kind of all look the same, you know? So it's
Hmm.
like whenever you kind of make a tool, and it's like allows people to just build all kinds of different games into it, but at the same time it's like the tool kind of like limits how the games are going to look, or like the variety, and then it becomes kind of like just like they all kind of look the same. So I don't
Yeah,
know, it's
I
like, you know,
I
the
think
tools are there. Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say I think the alternative would be just those games wouldn't exist, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
so it's like, I definitely get where people are coming from, where when people lament the
Mhm.
homogenization of certain things, for instance, like Unreal Engine games tend to have like compilation
Mhm.
stutter, right? And that's an annoying thing, but it's just like the the alternative would be to write your own shader engine, right?
Mhm.
And it's just like, for most people, it's just like I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have Unity or something
Mhm.
similar where I could to help me do it.
Mhm.
I don't think I would have been like, oh, I can make a game, like, because it never even occurred to me 20 years ago that like I could make a game. I was interested, I would love to do it, but it was just like, that's like so far beyond my
Mhm.
capabilities. It took the confluence of like both getting good with programming from doing app development and
Mhm.
also the development of these tools to finally reach a level of maturity where it's like, hey, I could do that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I have another question. Since you
Mhm.
were doing app development before, where did you learn how to do art? Like, where does the artistic part of you come from?
I studied painting in college, so like I've always
Okay.
been into drawing. I like when I was a kid, like I just drew all the time, right?
Mhm.
I would like sit in my room. I had my parents got me an art easel when I was really young,
Mhm.
um, because that was like the thing that I wanted the most. I would just sit at
Mhm.
my art easel, just like drawing all day, then maybe go downstairs, play video games for a bit, come back up, get back to
Draw a little
drawing.
bit more.
That was what, maybe read some comics. But so I was always into that, and I just always liked art. So going to college, I wanted to study painting.
Mhm.
Um, when studying painting, though, I realized I didn't really want to have a career in the art world.
Mm.
I mean, I think I
Mhm.
kind of suspected that anyways, but like, kind of being exposed to that, kind of like, yeah, that's not really what I'm interested in. I just simply like to sit and make things, right?
Mhm.
That was what art did for me. It was like, I just
Mhm.
want to sit and make a thing that I'm I'm enjoying working on and like
Mhm.
building something or creating something. And then like later on in life, I discovered that programming kind of like scratched that itch for me as well.
Mhm.
And so now it's like programming has kind of like supplanted that for me. Like that's the thing I enjoy doing, like sitting
Mhm.
down and making a thing. But like being that translates also to being able to sit at my iPad and like just draw the same thing over and over again because everything in the Little Nemo is hand animated frame by frame. So
Mhm.
it's like it takes that kind of like, okay, let me just sit here and draw this again and again and again. And sometimes I'll sit for a day and just like to hammer out a single animation for some enemy or
Wow.
something. Um, but yeah, so that's actually kind of I consider myself nowadays more of a programmer, but like I was more of a more interested in drawing and painting before that.
Ah, that is just so interesting because, like, I don't know, programming and like painting are usually, I don't know, I feel like people who enjoy one or the other are like usually different types of people. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like
Yeah,
to be like somebody who enjoys art, you're usually like a different person than somebody who enjoys like programming.
yeah,
But at the same time, that's like, I mean, there's my husband, and my husband's also like a really creative person. He's I'm somebody who draws, but then he's somebody who's incredibly creative. And the things that he draws are like he has a completely different style of like drawing, but he's just so creative with the things that he like
yeah,
his mind comes up. But then he also is like a very like technical person, and he's like he likes to program. He's like an IT guy, and it's just like a I don't know. I but he's also kind of like you, where he's just kind of introverted, likes to just sit around and like work on something. So it's just like I don't know, it's so interesting. And then when you start talking to like all the kinds of like different people who like to make games, it's like I don't know, you kind of get to know like what kind of like person they are, and it's just that's what's just so interesting to me. It's like what makes people want to I don't know what drives you to create games. And it's like
yeah.
I don't humans have every human has like an incredibly interesting story, and that's also why I love like talking to people. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, yeah. I think it also like it takes a special kind of weirdo to make a game, right? Because of these different um like skills you need to
Mhm.
learn. It's like you need to be able to do art to some degree. You need to be able to do
Mhm.
programming to some degree.
Mhm.
Like music and audio. For, like I was lucky enough to have people to do
Yeah.
both sound effects and the music for the game because that's something I've dabbled in the past. And like, yeah, it's not that would have been just a whole nother world of
Yeah.
hurt to take on. But I think and different people will enjoy different parts of it. Like for
Yeah.
me, some of the like I'm not a super creative person. I find like the creative actions are the hardest for me,
Mhm.
so like
Mhm.
that kind of blank page of like
Mhm.
when I'm doing the level design, for instance, like when I have to start fresh on like, okay, I need to
Mhm.
build this domain. What is the level going to look like? It's just like that's the hardest step, right?
Mm.
But once
Mhm.
there's kind of something there and I'm like refining it and honing it, it's like then I'm in my element and I'm
Mhm.
enjoying it and it's great. But that creative aspect is harder for me. And I think maybe it gets at some of what you're saying, where some
Mhm.
people that prefer programming tend to be different from people who prefer art. And I think I tend to lean like I think if you saw the art that I did in college, it would start to make a little more sense because it's all basically pixel art.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
and it was very kind of kind of had that idea of just like focus and like
Mhm.
just sitting and working on a thing, and less of that kind of broad uh, creativity to it. It was more kind of about putting an idea onto the page, but in a
Mm.
very formally executed kind of way.
Yeah, and I feel like it really resonates with me what you said. Like the trying to start to working on a blank page is like very hard, because that's one of the things that's very hard for me too. And it's kind of like, and just like you, I always I went to so I did half of high school I did like I studied art, so like I did like painting, and then I So I was born in Eastern Europe, and it's kind of complicated, but I was in Eastern Europe and I was studying art, and then I went to Italy with my parents, and then I studied fashion, and then I went to college and I studied graphic design. And so I did a lot of like I love art. I've
You sound
always
like you
like
could make a
done.
video game.
I don't think maybe I can
You've
help my
got the
husband.
broad skill set that you need, right?
And
That's
it's like I'm
what it
and it's
takes.
such a oh, it's such a curse sometimes because I'm so interested in so many different things and I don't have
Yeah,
time. It's like there is not enough human time for me to
yeah,
explore all the things that I wish that I could. But
yeah,
I've always been good at art, but it just like you said, like I never wanted to make a career out of it, and it hit me like way after, like I was like when I was a grown up I was like, wait, I don't like to make art for other people, and I don't want this to become a job because I've always been good at portraits. So like there was always a lot of people who wanted me to draw their like babies and their family members, and it's like sometimes I did it, but then it was like such a chore, and I hated how art had like it was becoming a chore if I had to do
yeah,
it for somebody else. So
yeah,
I
exactly.
always like kept it as a hobby. And so that really resonated with me because you were like, well, I didn't want it to be a career. And it's like, that's just how I felt. And then also the fact that, like, when you start from, like, on a blank piece of paper, that's, like, the hardest. And it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a huge struggle to, like, put something on there when there's, like, nothing. And then after
Y-
you put something, then it becomes so much easier.
Yeah, yeah, for anyone, for you or for anyone watching that's like that struggles with that, because I feel like that's a pretty common
Mm-hmm.
problem, is like there's the old I think the one I learned in art school was
Mm-hmm.
you put a cup of coffee on your page, like
Mm-hmm.
that has like spilled a little bit. So you
Yeah.
put a coffee stain on it. Like right, the idea is you mess up the surface,
Mm-hmm.
and then that like because there's like it's the blank page problem, right? You need
Mm-hmm.
something on there to kind of
Mm-hmm.
break that pristine nature, because otherwise it feels like any creative act on
Yeah.
it is gonna like ruin it in some way. So it's
Yeah.
like first you ruin it, and maybe even the patterning of that coffee stain will give you some idea.
Something.
And so like what I would do for the level design stuff a lot of times is like for instance the palace, the level design for that
Mm-hmm.
was initially me. The way I started that was I was like, all right, I'm gonna look at one of the games that I it kind of has a lot of inspiration behind his like informed a lot of Little Nemo is Blaster Master for the NES. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like a proto Metroidvania action adventure platformer, and so I really like the layout of the first level. So I drew that in my
Mm-hmm.
Nemo Maker, as I call it, which is like kind of like a Mario Maker for Little Nemo. And so I built Blaster Master's first level in Little Nemo, and then it was like, okay, now how would I change this to make it
Mm-hmm.
like a fun Nemo level? And I kind of like worked from there. And that actually kind of became the Palace level.
Oh, that's
But
so
you can
cool.
kind of maybe see a little bit of the like maybe hints of the level if you like zoom out. You can kind of get a sense of that. But um, yeah, that's like really helpful for me. I need something to kind of like get started, and I think like a lot of people do. So it's like, yeah, always try to find some way to either just like mess up, do scribble or do something to like get
Yeah.
it started.
That's actually really good advice. I like that. And I also really wanted to ask you. So you worked on Little Nemo for so long. Like, how did it feel for it to finally be out on Steam and for people to be able to buy it and play the full game? How does it feel?
um, it's kind of it's one of those things like it's nice because it's finally like it's not done in the sense that like I'm
Mhm.
still working on it, right? I'm fixing bugs, I'm
Mhm.
still adding some features that were promised for Kickstarter backers. I'm going to be working on the Switch port very
Mhm.
soon. And so I'm still working on it, but but it's nice that it's like out there and people are playing it. And because at a certain point you kind of you can, before it launched, I was doing a lot of play testing. It was like, I think I've made a good game, but I don't know that I've made a good game, because you can't possibly know, like, because you can't experience your own game, right? There's no way
Mhm.
for you to like play it and experience and get at all the same experience that a player will have, because
Mhm.
you're way too close to it. There's just like, it's simply impossible, right? So I can't know that the game is good. I'm just like, I think we've made something good, but
Mhm.
it's not until it's out there and people are playing it. And so it's nice to see, like, watch streamers play, and to kind of like see the reviews, and the Steam reviews, and the like critical reviews coming in, and they're all
Mhm.
very positive, which is really exciting, because even if you've made a good game, that still doesn't mean people are necessarily going to like it, right? It might be like, oh yeah, this is like a good game, but maybe the whole like retro, the like making something that's like fresh and new but also
Mhm.
retro isn't something I'm interested in, right? So it's like, it's nice to especially hear from people like you, kind of getting that sense of jazz jackrabbit in there, even though I never played that, and other players that are sort of like, wow, okay, like I feel really seen, and that like this is like the Metroidvania guru was really, honestly, like kind of moving for me, because
Mhm.
he was saying, like, it's really cool to see somebody inspired by the same stuff that I
Mhm.
was inspired by, and they go on to make this game that like is infused with that. And so it's like, I think it's kind of this back and forth of like, it's exciting to kind of have that back and
Mhm.
forth with a player, and to like see and be seen. So that's been really nice. But it's also kind of feels a little bit like, okay, this is just the start. Like, the game is done, but I still need to finish it. I still need to get it out on Switch, and I
Mhm.
need to figure out how to sell it, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
because self-publishing means, we don't have this. It's not like a AAA launching a game where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
here's this big splash, everyone knows it's out. Now the goal is like, okay, now I need people to know this game exists, right?
Mhm.
Because currently it's like, okay, like a few thousand people know that this game exists. I want a lot more. I think a lot more people would enjoy this game, and based on like how
Mhm.
it's reviewing, I think like we're on to something, right? We've made something
Mhm.
good, and now I need to figure out how to reach the people that are interested in it, and that's localization, bringing it to more consoles, um, just polishing it up. Like, right now, the Steam Deck performance could be better,
Mhm.
so I want to polish that up, so more people that play on their Steam Deck, or some people played it and bounced off because they're like, oh, it's not quite polished enough, and it's like, okay, fair enough. Like, I'll that's another thing that I need to work on and get like more. Uh, it kind of feels like now I'm in this snowballing phase. Like, it
Mhm.
couldn't start until now, and I need to build it up, and like get people excited about it, and playing and sharing with their friends. And
Mhm.
because I do think there is, it is like somewhat a niche game, right? So platformers notoriously like don't do great on Steam, because it's more of like a
Mhm.
console genre.
Mhm.
But I think being a Metroidvania, um, and like, there are elements about this that I think could reach a larger audience. And yeah, so now I'm just sort of, I just need to like make that happen. So I still feel like there's a lot ahead of me that I
Mhm.
need to do. But it is definitely exciting to like be getting like proper feedback on the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I don't know. It's like it's difficult because it's kind of like, as you said, like when you're building a game, you have to know how to do so many things and you feel like so many different shoes, and like it's like marketing is like a big part of like, spreading the word for your game. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you, it's like, so what, I don't know, it's like, what do you think is the best way? Or like, are you yourself like wondering what the best way to market the game is? Like, how do
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
how do
That's
you
that's a little
spread the
bit of it.
word?
Yeah, part of it is like kind of finding, like testing out different kind of like hooks, because
Mm-hmm.
there's like a lot of one of the things that's, on the one hand, it's positive, right, that people are excited, but
Mm-hmm.
there's like something that people have been saying that I hear occasionally in reviews, which is, this is a lot better than I thought it would be, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, awesome. That's like, I'm glad that you really enjoyed it, and that like came out with a really positive experience, and you're excited and you're telling other
Mm-hmm.
people about this. But how do I make you understand how good it is from the get-go, right?
Right.
That's something I need to figure out. And it's tough, because like I don't have any background in
Yeah.
marketing. I don't know how to do this, so I just need to try different stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And try different marketing. It's like a lot of running ads on Reddit and
Mhm.
kind of like testing how they convert, or just like trying different like taglines
Mhm.
on socials, like trying to appeal to different audiences, things like that. Those are It's just stuff I need to try and find the
Mhm.
thing that like really works, that like gets in front of people, but also gets in front of them in a way that they understand what the game is.
Mhm.
Because it's clear that like not everybody like a lot of people get turned away because they think it's maybe something that it's not.
Mhm.
A lot of people think it's a kid's game, right? Which
Yeah.
like it is for it's not for kids, right? Like I want kids to play this for sure, but it's also for people like me that want to play, that
Right.
simply want to play a game that is like wholesome, but
Yeah.
like is not that's not like necessarily like kiddie. So yeah, I have a lot of work to do on that front, and like just
Mm.
figuring all
and
that out.
and to me that topic is interesting because it's like, I don't know, I've always been interested in marketing and how it all works. But it's very, like, I also didn't think I was going to like it, honestly, because as I told you, no, I'm not somebody who usually likes to play platformers, right?
Yeah,
But then I opened it and I started playing, and it was like, so it was, the animations were smooth, the art was really great. Like, I was instantly like drawn to it, and then I like started playing, and it was fun. It was actually a platformer that was fun to play. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's like, because I feel like, so I watched a very interesting video, and I did watch it because of my husband. So it's like we watched this very interesting video, and it was a video about the basically games that are, how many of them are made, and like the number of basically how many games of this specific type are made, and actually how much demand there is for them. And there's like an insane amount of platformers being made, but there's not really that much demand for them. And I think that it's because most of them are always kind of like, they're very like, they're very similar, like, I don't know, and they kind of have like, I don't know, I think that they always have kind of the same vibe. It's always kind of like, it's like something like very repetitive. But Little Nemo felt different to me. I don't know, it did not feel like your same old platformer that everybody else makes. It felt, and that's, it felt special to me because of like me playing Jazz Jackrabbit as a kid. But it was just something, I don't know, it just felt different, it felt special, it felt like really fun to play. And it was like, I don't know, how do you, and I think that a lot of gamers maybe do have a little bit of prejudice in their mind, because it's like they see a platformer and they're like, oh, maybe I don't want to play this. But it's like you're missing out.
yeah. I think especially on like PC on Steam. My guess is like what's happening is people like, because I experienced this, right? I wanted to
Mhm.
make a platformer, right? Because I like platformer. Like I grew up
Yeah.
playing those, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to make something like what I loved as a kid. I want to make that, and that was like mostly platformers, right? Um, but part of why this is a Metroidvania is simply because like like that's more kind of where my tastes have gone, right? Is
Mhm.
that as an adult, like I like platformers, but I also don't play a lot of them
Mhm.
because I crave that more kind of progression experience of a game
Mhm.
that's not just like play this level done, play this level done. Okay, I beat
Mhm.
the game done. I want something that's a little more kind of has like that through line that a Metroidvania would have. Um, and I kind of also just looking at the numbers, even like 7 years ago when I was getting started on this, it was clear like it would be hard to be financially successful with just a
Mhm.
platformer on
Mhm.
Steam, because I think they probably do a little better on consoles because you kind of have
Mhm.
a player base that's more ready for those, and maybe the Steam Deck has helped with this to some degree.
Mhm.
But I think on PC there's probably there's fewer. You just have like different genres that
Mhm.
are more popular. It's like less platformer, more strategy games or
Mhm.
something, for
Mhm.
instance. Um, and yeah, so that kind of informed my decision to not per se make a platformer, but make a Metroidvania. It's like it's like it is a platformer, it plays like a platformer, but I wanted something to kind of like make it a little more likely to succeed
Mhm.
on Steam, and also something that I would be more likely to play myself. Um, it's
It was
yeah.
It's a very good game though, no, for real. I did take, while we were speaking, I did take a little moment to post a link to the Steam page in the Blaze chat, so anybody
Oh,
who's
thank you.
interested in the game can check it out on Steam. And then I wanted to just say, I don't know, like when I started it, and when I started it on my computer to play it during Steam Next Fest when I was testing out the demo, was kind of surprised that it worked very well with my controller. And I don't know if that makes sense, but like some games, even now, like when you like they're not like optimized for like using a controller. They don't always like seamlessly connect. Like sometimes you have to like fidget with them. But
Yeah.
like I remember that was one of the things that really was like, I just literally turned on my controller, it connected, it worked immediately, and I was like, oh, that's nice. I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know,
spent I kind of, we talked a bit about how the art is really important to both of us when playing a
mm-hmm.
game. And one of the things, it sounds like this also might be true for you. One of the things that's really important for me when I'm playing a game is, and this is going to sound like absurd to some people, but like it's polish, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I come into a game, it's like that polish like matters. It's like, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I come in and I'm like, I need to immediately, I'm not liking these controls. I need to change my control, my gamepad bindings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so having like from the get go, I knew, and this is the sort of stuff that I was working on ahead of the Kickstarter, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
why when I got to the Kickstarter, I was like, oh, I'm surely like most of the way done because I had already built in a lot of this stuff that I knew I would want to work. Seems like I want the controllers to just work. I want to be able to rebind the controls,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to have all these like be able to change the volume of the different elements of the soundscape. And I think people are that do take the time to look into the settings, they tend to be really impressed. Like, oh, you can
Mm-hmm.
change like the font size, and
Yeah.
there's of accessibility option, the font, like the font scaling, but also there's a dyslexia friendly font, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all stuff that I was just like, I really appreciate when these sorts of touches are in the game, and so I want that to be in my game. And for a lot of people, it's like there's just there that has the benefit of some people just expect that stuff to work right out of the gate, right? And they'll just bounce off your game if they grab their Steam Deck and like the controls don't work just right.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, I knew it works with keyboard and mouse, and I think pretty nicely. But I'm more of a gamepad player, so I knew,
Mm-hmm.
it being a platformer, a Metroidvania, it's like this has to be kind of like controller first, right? So I made sure to kind of have like sensible gamepad default bindings and stuff.
That was really cool, and yeah, like really, I remember like it was one of the things that impressed me. I was so happy because I also like to play with a gamepad. I don't play many games with my keyboard, and I avoid it if I can. Like if I can play with my controller, I'm gonna play with my controller.
Yeah, I during development I got really good actually at playing with my because it's really easy to play with just a single hand on keyboard, which
Mhm.
is nice.
Mhm.
Because you have like it's easy to hit five buttons at once,
Yeah.
so you don't even need to use your right hand. And so that's kind of how the defaults are kind of set up to allow for that. And I got
Mhm.
really handy with that, like using Moz D for movement and stuff. It's actually kind of like that for Nemo, and but I still typically like, yeah, tend to prefer playing on gamepad. It's just like, I've been playing on gamepad for 40 years now, so it's like ingrained in me.
Yeah. And I'm keeping you for longer than an hour, but I was having so much fun talking to you.
Yeah, yeah, this has been really fun.
Yeah, and so, I don't want to keep you for too long, but it was, and I feel like, I don't know, I had like, I wanted to ask you like a lot of different things, and I think I asked you most of the things that I wanted to, but it was just really, really fun talking to you. And
Yeah,
and the
same.
time went by like really fast.
Yeah, yeah, this
And
is
so,
fun.
I really, really appreciate you. As I said, I don't want to keep you for too long. But I'm really like, I don't know. And it's like maybe like in the future you could come back and we could talk more about games because it was really fun and I feel like I could ask you like so many more things. Um, and yeah, it's just whoever's watching us, check out the game on Steam. It's called Little Nemo, and the Guardians of Slumberland. I forget like the second part of the name always. I'm like Little Nemo.
Yeah, yeah. The subtitle's important because, like I said, it has a rich history, and
Yeah, yeah.
most Little Nemo adaptations are called Little Nemo and then something. So
And then something, yeah.
a
But yeah.
notable exclusion, by the way, being there's by the way, there's also a Netflix film that came out a few years ago called
Oh wow.
Slumberland, which is worth checking
Okay.
out as well when you're digging into the if you dig into the Little Nemo history, definitely check
I
out Slumberland. I
definitely
really enjoyed
will.
it.
I definitely will. And I have like all these things like pulled up and I'm going to look at them like tomorrow because for me it's like
It's
what
getting
is it?
late.
It's getting late, yeah.
Yeah,
But I like I have them all pulled up and like tomorrow when I wake up I'm gonna have like a lot of stuff to look into and I'm really excited about it.
awesome.
But yeah, and it's just like I was so surprised at like how much I didn't know about Little Nemo. Um and anyways, I wanted to tell everyone to check out the game because it is actually a really fun game and you should play it. And you can
Yeah,
play it
there's a
with your
free demo.
kids. Yeah, right? There's Oh, you're keeping up the demo after the game is out?
Yeah, I was gonna take it down, but I figured
Mhm.
I'll leave it up and see. I'll keep an eye on see how it's doing.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think, like I said, in terms of like making sure people understand what it is,
Mhm.
I was kind of thinking maybe the demo is important for that reason, like so that people can get a sense of what the game is by just
Mhm.
playing it. So yeah, it's up for it might come down, but for now, I still
Mhm.
think it makes sense to have it up. So yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, people can check out the demo. Go play the
yeah.
demo of Little Nemo. It's so much fun. And as I said, you can play it by yourself. You can play it with your kids, and you're gonna have so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you really, really so much for coming. It was
Yeah.
really fun talking to you. And as I said, maybe sometime, someday in the future, when you have time again, we could talk about games again and art and like everything. Cause it was, I don't know, I just had so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah. I had fun. Thanks for having me. It was
Of
great to meet
course,
you.
yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to end the stream, and I hope everybody's having a good night. And thank you for
Yeah.
coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.